Miss Mattie Merrywinkle, Chapter 7, Marigold. Mattie had received a letter, a personal letter, in a thick cream envelope with a handwritten address and a stamp in the corner. It was propped, unopened, against a sauce bottle on the kitchen table and had been there ever since she picked it off the mat this morning. She'd studied the handwriting, neat, rounded, and the postmark, somewhere smudged in Kent, whilst eating her breakfast, but still had no idea who had sent it. She couldn't bring herself to open it before she went to work, in case the contents were upsetting and she needed to be cheerful when she was out and about on the estate. She couldn't explain why, but she sensed that, once she'd opened it, her life would take a different path. Now she couldn't delay any longer. The envelope contained a single sheet of good quality notepaper, the same creamy colour as its wrapping. Mattie unfolded it nervously and scanned the contents. "Oh, me giddy aunt!" Mattie read to the end, then clutching the letter to her, she picked up the phone. "Hello, Winnie, is that you? Have you got a minute?" "Of course I have, love. You sound a bit upset. Is everything all right?" "Oh, not really. I've had a bit of a shock and I just needed to talk to somebody." "What kind of shock? What's happened? Are you hurt?" "No, I haven't fallen or anything, but I've had a letter. A letter from Marigold." "Your Marigold? Oh, love, no wonder you're in shock. What's prompted her to get in touch after all this time?" "She says she's only just found out my name." "Did she not know she'd been adopted then?" "Yes, she knew, but she'd been told that her mother was some silly teenager who'd got herself into trouble and who didn't want anything to do with the baby." "Oh, Mattie, love, nothing could be further from the truth." "Well, she realises that now, but she just accepted it at the time. Apparently both her parents were in their 80s and in the same care home when the virus struck. They died within a few days of each other. After the funeral, she went through their papers and found a letter from the adoption agency with a contact number in case she ever wanted to find out about her birth mother. So that's what she did. And then, of course, she was given access to the letters I'd written to her over the years. Oh, I bet it was a bit of a shock, having her world turned upside down like that." "Does she sound angry?" "No, not really. She says she's just sad not to have known me. She wants to meet up once lockdown is over." "And how do you feel about that?" "Oh, I think it would be wonderful." "Oh, then I hope it works out well for you, love." "Thanks, Winnie. I'll write back to her straight away. Strike while the iron's hot and all that." Mattie took her economy writing pad out of the sideboard drawer and sat down at the kitchen table, intending to write the bare minimum, just enough to convey that she would like it very much if they could meet in the near future. However, when she put pen to paper, it was as if a dam had been breached, and Mattie found herself pouring her heart out. Mattie wrote about how heartbroken she had been to let her daughter go. She wrote about her circumstances at the time, how she had been a 17-year-old schoolgirl and her parents had literally thrown her out on the street when her baggy school jumper no longer concealed her secret. She wrote about how her father had exploded with rage and behaved in a manner more suited to a Dickensian novel than 1970s Manchester, ordering her to never darken his doorstep again, while her mother sobbed quietly in the kitchen. Mattie wrote about her friend Winnie, whose mother, the kindly Mrs. Featherbottom, had taken her in until after the baby was born, when Mattie was able to get a job and a council flat. She wrote about how she had never stopped wondering about what had become of her daughter. The one thing Mattie didn't write about was Marigold's father, a glaring omission given that Marigold had expressed a desire to find out about him. The memories came flooding back. The smell of the art room, a hand resting slightly too long on her shoulder, the same hand holding hers as he rearranged her grip on the pencil, a murmur of artistic promise that needed nurturing, an offer of after-school tuition and a lift home. The teenage, affection-starved Mattie had fallen hook, line and sinker. He was married, of course, and he'd broken her heart by accusing her of sleeping around when she told him about the pregnancy, said she'd led him on, etc. So she had elected to remain mute on the subject of paternity, even though it had led to widespread rumours regarding her morality. How do you tell your daughter that her father was that kind of man? Not in a letter. She knew that much. Silas Letchworthy had been dead for the past 10 years. She'd read his glowing obituary in the local newspaper. A highly respected and inspirational teacher was how they described him. Well, she could think of other phrases that would describe him better, but it was all water under the bridge now, and that's where it would have to stay for the time being, maybe forever. Time would tell. Mattie's letter to Marigold sat on her kitchen table, propped against the sauce bottle, for 3 days before she finally found the courage to post it. I do hope it's going to be all right. What do you reckon, Gerald? In a show of affection rarely shown outside mealtimes, Gerald rubbed against her calves and purred loudly.